think you can really change people's stories with just having a conversation. So that's big for me, just to give back.
It's important to always give back and inspire like the next generation of people and children that look up to me.
You know, I think coming out here and in the community and doing things that are bigger than yourself.
My mom always told me it takes one person. You can save one person and a whole city gets saved. Like, we don't know until you like actually go and do it.
Everybody go through something in their life. I just use that and I stick that in my head so that I can motivate other people.
Hello again. My name is Sebastian Beckley. I know we've heard from me before. I'm here to introduce Greg and Jessica. So just a few words. Craig King is the CEO and founder of TeamNILO, where he empowers college athletes to leverage their name, image, and likeness to create positive impact and meaningful change. With over 10 years of experience in dental and healthcare sector, he is known for his expertise in business development, community impact, and prioritizing others' best interests. Born in Springfield, Massachusetts, Greg holds a business degree from University of North Texas, an MBA from Dallas Baptist University. He lives in Flower Mud, Texas, with his wife, Sarah, and their 3 children, Noah, 14, Jaden, 12, and Gianna, 3. Jessica Wynn is the daughter of Valerie Tibbs Wynn and Jonathan Wynn, born in Detroit, Michigan, and raised in Ann Arbor. She earned a BA in psychology and Native American and Indigenous study from the University of Michigan, followed by MS in education of students with disabilities from the City University of New York, Brooklyn College, sorry. She currently heads the coach, she's currently the head coach of the University of Michigan wheelchair basketball team through the Adaptive Sports and Fitness program, and an education consultant in the field of social emotional learning. Jessica loves spending time with her 9-year-old twins and 2-year-old twin nephews, visiting her parents' home daily for their amazing cooking and gardening. She moonlights as a singer, drummer, and guitarist in the band called Permission Slips. Please join me again in welcoming Jessica and Greg to the stage.
Wow. I thought the first time I would come to Ann Arbor, honestly, was to be at the big house and watch a football game. But when God has a plan for you, he puts it into full gear, and here I am. And so I'm thankful that this is the first time that I get to be in Michigan. It won't be the last time, but thank you. So bear with me, because the last 24 hours, I felt like you've prepared for a test and you really think you know the test. The teacher drops it in front of you and you have like no idea. And you don't even take the test. You just tell the teacher like, I'm not prepared. And so that's what this has felt like. So I wanna start out and I wanna say to everyone who has shared their story or their journey, thank you for your courage. Thank you for your mind. and for being the best version of yourself. Your stories have forever changed my life. To the teams that have made this conference possible, the University of Michigan, and all of the students that are doing the work and the research for the neurodivergent community and really just all people. It's a beautiful thing to see, and thank you. And to the audience that had no idea, like me, what neurodivergent meant or what it means to be neurodiverse, let's unite and join forces, join hands to make things more accessible and accommodating so that no child or adult feels excluded. I think I have the clicker. And so I had a presentation, and honestly, like yesterday, it like I said, it woke me up, but it hit me. And so I went back to the hotel and I kind of put this together. And I'm not a big PowerPoint, like some things AI is really good at, but I actually did this on my own. So we really are one big family, all of us. It doesn't matter your color, it doesn't matter your background, your religion. At the end of the day, in this room and beyond, we are one big family. It's a long, long list that I've started to journal, but I wish that I would have known more. I think I've beat myself up enough, but the first step is being here and educating myself. But access and awareness and education, if I can help someone that was in my shoes to know more, anyone that knows me, I love to talk, as I've shared. They will know more because you need to know more. So what has being here done for me? It's opened my eyes to a world that I live in personally every day. It's opened up my creative mind on all the ways that we can improve outcomes. It's motivated me to be involved, to get involved, and to advocate. It doesn't make sense on why we have to advocate, but it's the world we do live in, and nobody is perfect. But I can look at myself and say, well, what is it that I can do? And I could be an advocate. It's inspired me to see all the young people who are using their superpowers. Sebastian, superpowers. To make a difference, to be the difference. It's brought out, as you can see, a lot of emotions that I was not aware of. It's helped me to be a better husband, a father, a brother, and a person going forward. And I now understand what I didn't understand. So, thank you. Because you don't know what you don't know until you take the first step. And yesterday was the first step, and it's the day that I took the first step. So thank you to all of you. Sorry. So here's the funny thing. I wasn't supposed to be here. Truly. My company, TeamNILO, I'm doing a cleverly a campaign because I'm not a salesperson. So it's like, well, how do I expand the business? And so I paid $397 to connect to people on LinkedIn, and and it works. But I got this invite acceptance, and it was Sandy. And AI align some key words. And when I saw what she did, I was like, huh, because as I explained what NILO does, it's all about this right here, is how do you bridge this gap with sports, the community, philanthropy, marketing. And so we got on the call on the 12th. I get an invite, and I'm like, huh, I don't remember. Let me look in the message box. Usually it's, hey, let's set up a Zoom. Here's the email, and we get on the call, and Sandy is telling me about the organization, and sorry, thank you. I've worked with some schools. I just did something with Ohio State, but I've met Danielle in the compliance department for NIL, and she's awesome. And I'm like, Sandy's going through the organization, the Michigan logo, and it's a big deal because the emblem means a lot. I live in Dallas, and to be part of this organization and stand here, it's an honor. To go to this school, it's a huge honor. Ann Arbor, beautiful city. And so I'm super excited because as she's telling me about the organization, it's resonating deeply. And when something resonates with me like it was, I'm all in, especially if it impacts my home. And so the funny thing is as 15 minutes in the conversation, she says, Pete. I'm like, no, I'm not Pete. Oh. Pete. Wow. So when she said it again about 20 minutes, I was like, Sandy, I have to tell you, I'm not Pete. But I said, I love it, and here's my story. And how can I, use what God is doing to be involved? And here I am. But it doesn't stop there. But I will, Sandy, the effort, and I know it's the team, but it was divine and aligned, and so thank you. Thank you for having me here and giving me this opportunity. So, my beautiful mind, as I was sitting here yesterday, these are just some of the things that started going through my mind. And I'm very big on the call to action. The young man, forgive me, I'm bad on names, but he's like, we're talking and talking, so what's the call to action? And so that's how my mind works. And it's like, how do we redefine neurodiversity? How do we bring more visibility? How do we break this stigma? And what can I do? And so I'm gonna share my story, their journey, but my blessing. So a little bit about me. Like I said, we live in Flower Mound. My beautiful family. I was in the dental business for a long, long time. So Dr. McCauley, my first dentist, I actually hired Dr. Sanjukta Chitri, went to dental school here. One of the greatest people I know. But I was in the dental business until October 15, 2018, when there was a bigger plan, and I left corporate dentistry to be on this journey that I still am on now. We have a very competitive, sports-minded family, and so I put that picture because that's Gianna. We're, I think, on SoFi, and my wife's like, are you carrying Gianna on the football field? Like, yes, we were throwing the ball, and like my kids, like, we're very competitive. But the company, TeamNILO, but more importantly, because of this experience, I'm a proud leader of a neurodivergent family. So, I knew my life changed April 28, 2010, when this young man was blessed the world, and he blessed my life. Noah Zachary Wayne King. What I didn't know, that I think hurts more now, as Noah will be 15, is I didn't know why some things just didn't connect it between a dad and a son. I'm a very big, passionate person in sports. It's clicked for him, but it's as a parent, and I'm just being very transparent, it wasn't clicking the way that I thought it should click. I was being selfish. And I know when he, in kindergarten, was diagnosed as dyslexic. Well, most people that don't know about dyslexia think it's like B's and, D's, and you get some numbers, and that was that. It was like, he'll be fine. We got 504, he'll be fine. One thing I want to say about this young man is very early on, he was a champion for being dyslexic, being pulled out in the first grade, always being willing. I'm dyslexic, and he's just owned it. But it's how many young men and young women young girls that he has made feel comfortable about who Noah is, who they are. And you can ask, he's in ninth grade, how many people, even in ninth grade, are like, I need help. But I didn't know it went further than just dyslexia, the dysgraphia, the dyscalculia, the ADHD, all things that whatever it is, I can recount maybe a couple months ago, Noah telling me, Dad, you're just not listening to me. And so this is eye-opening, but it hurts. Because as I look at him, I didn't know. This is Jaden, my warrior. But also because of being here, I now understand his challenges because of dysgraphia. But when Jaden was born February 21st, 2013, with a congenital heart disease, hypoplastic left heart. And so what that meant is in the womb, Jaden's left ventricle did not form. And I knew very early on there would be 3 heart surgeries. And so at day 5, Jaden had his first open heart surgery. And it changes your life forever when your son is not here, but he's here. But he's here because of machines. And you don't ever get over the pictures you see of a little 5-year-old and it's your son, because life's not supposed to be this way. I remember the nurse saying, hey, do you want to touch his heart? I'm like, no. But but to see his human heartbeat. But for so long, life, it wasn't normal. And so that bottom picture is his 3rd surgery. And he's always been a warrior. And you see he wears his zipper, super proud. And cognitively, we didn't know. And I can tell you, the kid has like superpowers of like remembering numbers and dates, and you're like, how do you know this? But he has challenges. He's a yoga master, by the way. All these things I'm learning by being here. But I see why his challenges exist. But now I can actually help my son because I know, because there's awareness, there's education, and now there's a decision that I can make to help my child, because what parent doesn't want to help their child? And so Jaden just celebrated his 12th birthday, and every day is a blessing. One, it's a blessing every day we wake up. But what Jaden has shown me is you just don't know what tomorrow holds. People always ask, well, what is the long term? I don't know. None of us do. So live every day truly like it matters. And that's what this young man has taught me. And then there's the woman that changed my life. I know we're talking about, kids and access and adults, but As we get older, relationships matter. Your spouse, friends, people. And so I knew my wife was ADHD. I knew she was dyslexic, but I couldn't comprehend why, like, having conversations, like, it just seemed like it was not resonating. And I would ask her, what do you see? And she would put together things and I'd be like, I don't see that. Like, and if I'm just being honest, because I didn't know, there was times that you just maybe don't believe your child or even your wife. But she has worn her crown with nothing but grace and beauty. And I can now connect with her on a much deeper level because I know her beautiful mind. And then there's my brother, my little big bro, because he is bigger than me. And he's level 2. I didn't even know that, but now I know. And then there's Gianna Christina King. And at 43, like, trust me, I think for the last 4 years, as things, you get humbled, I didn't grow up where you could cry. And so this is probably a lot of years and decades that are coming out, but it breaks you. And so as I look at her and there's things, you know, and it's like, you don't care because once you know, you love no matter what. And I put the question mark there because neurodivergent, no divergent, it doesn't matter because what I see is a disability, a neurodivergent, like, again, to me, we're all the same. And if we're all the same, then we should all help have accommodations just like we would do for anybody else. That's what I mean by the same. Yes, there are disabilities. Yes, there are accommodations, but it's like when you remove that and say, hey, we're all the same, it doesn't matter, I believe that's when the heart has a change and things happen. And so that's my point by saying, I'm not gonna love her any less. I'm not gonna ask for her to be treated any different than anybody else's child. And the reality is you just don't know when this will impact your house or someone that you love. And so if you can do something about making things happen for people that do have some challenges, then we should do them. And so TeamNILO was started or founded in 2022. And today, as an agency, we all know right here at this school, there's a lot of athletes that have a lot of visibility. They're athletes, they're human, and they have stories, which to me, their story is their brand. Your brand really is just how people identify you as, how they see you, who you are. But that starts back from day one of your original day that you were born, which is your story and the journey that led you here. And what we're doing at TeamNILO is we're turning that into how can an athlete use that influence in their story, their brand, how people see them to impact change for something that's close to them. And there's a lot of examples that exist today that prove, one, that athletes want to use their platforms, they want to use their influence, but they want to share their stories because they're no different than any student right here on this campus. And the more we do stories and allow athletes to be transparent and share who they are, the hope is that it's endless to bring awareness. Content is obviously king, and the reach can go as far as we want it to go because that's how media works today. And so there's 3 things that we do. we'll get into it, but NILO storytelling and campaigns. A NILO is very simple. It's an opportunity. NIL, name, image, and likeness. You can look it up, but basically the Supreme Court said you can monetize off your name, image, and likeness. Meaning if Coca-Cola wants to have you hold up a can and pay you $10,000 to promote it, you can. If a school now can compensate you to play at their university, they can. For us, it's all about the influence that you have and the impact that you can make, especially when it resonates with your story. And so we'll open it up a little bit more for questions, but what I can tell you is the first time I actually did a NILO right here with Jace Howard, who's on the men's basketball team. His dad's Juwan Howard. He came down to Detroit to an elementary school, and he used his influence to bring financial literacy or encourage early literacy at an elementary school with K through second. And so that's already happening here. For me, how do we magnify and amplify what athletes are doing, but how do we do it at scale? And so I went through a lot of the background, but at the end of the day, it is these stories, their stories, all of our stories, that I believe when we collectively tell these stories, it'll be interesting, but I know it'll make a difference.
My younger cousin, she's actually got a rare disease. So I found out that this organization was raising funds for rare diseases, and I just asked, like, hey, can I get involved somehow? And Gracie is her name. She lives up in New York. She's got a disease called Dravet syndrome, and it's basically a rare epilepsy disorder. I've just gotten to see firsthand what it really means to be in the rare disease community, what it means to have a rare disease. And it can be a very difficult process, you know, finding treatments, finding support, finding other people that have it so you can collaborate with them. It's a very difficult place to be. But she's got so much strength. She's so strong. It's been such an inspiration of mine to see her and just how she carries herself. And we got her to come down for a game last year, which was one of my goals of college football. So it was an incredible experience.
Thank you for helping me and my friends fighting rare diseases. Go Bears!
And so I'll just I'll close it at this, and so Jessica and I. But this is Jaden right above the "We Are the Same." His one season of baseball, he got hit with the baseball in his eye, and that was it. But at least he tried it. This is my favorite sport. But this was a game that the Braves that we hosted, and it was the best game. And so I know what's possible with 10-year-olds, and I know what's possible right here at the University of Michigan with varsity sports. And so the question really is how we all come together and collaborate and make that happen, because I think the impact and the standard that could be set right here, obviously we all know what that means in football and basketball, but imagine what it could mean to the world when we put this together. So thank you. Thank you.
So again, my name is Jessica. I have reddish-brown skin and black woman, long cornrow braids, and please use she, her pronouns for me. I would like to say that I'm honored to be here, to be in community with you, Greg, because in our culture, we say it takes a village. And usually we say it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to sustain adults. You are where you are, and that's okay. And so I'm honored to support you. And not only that, I'd like to say it was very beautiful for me to watch you all give Greg space, because a lot of times we can ask people to do better, we can ask people to do more, but how often do we sit with them in the process? And you're seeing his raw emotion, you're seeing his raw process, that awakening moment where you hope that you get up and you give a talk and it changes somebody's life, but you don't see it in real time. So for those of you who took space with yourself, who took a deep breath or even processed or can't process other people, I know for some people it's very uncomfortable to watch other people show emotion. For how he shows up in the world, he's not allowed to be that type of emotional. I know that. And so I respect you all for giving him a safe space, because as someone who's neurodivergent, it's important to call people out, but it's more important to call people in afterwards. And so what I would like to do as someone who works in the sports industry, and I'm a wheelchair basketball coach, and I advocate for athletes with disabilities. For someone with a hidden disability, it's important for me when you're talking about the work that you do and how to tell stories to put adaptive sports at the front of your mind while we do this. I'm looking at one of my athletes here, Daniel Delgado Cornejo. His story is amazing. I know my own story is amazing. My mom and dad would say so, at least. And all of you have a story that's amazing. I see an athlete in all of you. And my own kids, I can see so much of that. So I really appreciate that you're willing to come out here and tell your story. It's everybody else's here's job to figure out how it connects to this conference. Your mind is absolutely beautiful. And so I just want to let you know that this may be like an early vision. It may not be something where you leave here and roll away from here or walk away from here saying like, oh, okay, this is something I can write down, or maybe I can't tweet about it. Maybe I can't put an Instagram post about it, but I hope it pulls at your heartstrings a bit to say, what do I do the next time someone wants to change? Give him space, give them space to be able to shift. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit more. And Greg, yesterday, I'm poking holes in all of your theories of like, yes, you like to do NIL deals. What about adaptive athletes? What about my team that sits here? What about people who are playing sports that are not popular? How can you tell their stories? And he was so receptive, so open-minded, like, let's do it. I'm about to actually, like, what do I need to do? How do I do this? Tell me more. And so I just want to, you would never tell people that, but I'm going to call it out in front of everybody here. So if you have a story to tell, please approach him. And please continue to do what you did today, which is make a peaceful opportunity for people to make violent change, for radical change in the way that they think about how people think. So that's all I got to say about that. But I'll sit with you if anybody has like questions or anything, Greg.
Do we have any questions? I'm getting there.
Hello.
I'm not so sure it's a question, but more so a comment. Neurodiversity is woven into so many people without their understanding. And I can't help but think that a lot of the people that you support in NIL may also be on the edges of neurodiversity, but not have the empowerment to speak to that. And I'm wondering if there's avenues that you can think of where you might be able to connect some of the people that you play with or that you work with to help them connect to being empowered, being neurodiverse. Like, is there a way that you can take a survey of the people that you work with to try and find people who are specifically connected into like dyslexia or dysgraphia so that they can go into schools or other avenues to empower children who are also identifying in those neurodiverse areas. Because really, empowerment is kind of the key here, where we all start to learn to live together, because being vulnerable is really hard, but is also the most empowering aspect of our humanity. So what ideas do you think you can come up with to try and make those connections so that we can see your work spread a little bit further into areas you normally wouldn't think to go?
That's a very great question, and there's a couple parts to that. So there's a young man who goes to the University of Texas, plays for the Longhorns. He's a defensive end, and he's able to be compensated for his gift. And what he did is he stood up a nonprofit on behalf of his little brother who's autistic. And it's powerful. I think on the other hand, there's he was, for 14 years, he played center. His name's Chris Spencer. And if you look him up, he was the center for Eli Manning at Ole Miss. He was the center for Russell Wilson for the Seahawks. He's 40-ish now, and he was terrified to raise his hand to say he was dyslexic, severe dyslexia. what's interesting is that position, you have to basically navigate the offense. And he was dyslexic. And so I think, and this is just, I think there's an approach and there's a delicate balance, because also sports is a business. And, if you're dyslexic, like my son, you may not learn the playbook the same. And so I think as conversations start to happen and we start to look at resources and ways to kind of bridge those gaps, there's obviously tools out there that can help coaches to be able to communicate, players be able to learn their plays and so forth. So I think it's a step one that leads to the step two and step three. And then I think there's just guys that get out of from playing and then they share their story, right? And they're not still part of sport. But obviously with content, you can go to YouTube and you can scroll. And I like to ask the questions like, how did you get through this? Like, it's almost like a master class, if you think about that, of just stories. So people are like, that resonates with me. And that's how he managed it, because not everybody can raise their hand and say, hey, I have this problem right now.
I think another way is when I look at young people, when you're in elementary school, seeing those students maybe who have IEPs or 504 plans, or someone who has, who needs learning support, offering athletics as an option for them. That's what first comes to mind. You say, hey, you know what? Have you tried badminton? Have you tried wheelchair rugby? Have you tried these things? And making sure that the coaches are educated, because if we start at a younger age and you encourage sport, I know for me, my mom later told me she knew I had ADHD. She didn't tell me, she just signed me up for a whole bunch of activities, just like wear me out. It didn't really work that well. I think I wore them out. But that later I realized by the time I played in college that it was supposed to be therapeutic for me to play in band and go to music. And I think I still do those things now. I do basketball, I do music. And so I think once you can see from a young age that sports can be a place for them to thrive, that helps on the first end, on the early end. And then on the other side, making sure that the coaches are aware. As a coach, I can build the schedule for my team. We do sports psychology, we have like team meetings. And so one thing that you can add is talk to coaches and train them up, connect them with ND and say, hey, how can I make sure that these coaches are aware that when your student is on campus, here are the disability resources that you can use, here are some different places, and also even go in there and just recruiting people, right? We know that there are some organizations that realize, I think Dave and I were talking about that yesterday, there are organizations that realize that if you're neurodivergent, I want you on my team intentionally. And so those are, I think, some other ways that we can really start to realize that you are valuable and you have a sense of belonging here, and using sport as a mechanism for that, for people to have a richer quality of life later.
And just to be clear, there are resources for athletes, great resources. What I'm saying is a lot of what I've heard is the awareness, but there's stigma, right? Medication. So it's really more of a conversation that happens. Not every story can be told just because it may not be the right time to tell that story for whatever reason. I would say everyone in here is an ambassador or a champion. And if you know an athlete, you know someone that may have signs, then you can encourage them, through other ways to at least seek assistance. So it's not necessarily a perfect answer to that. I think the more that this happens, and the more you include athletes, then there's conversations, there's strategy, and then there's a bigger alignment where everybody wins.
Hello. Oh, that's very loud. First of all, thank you very much. I always tell my students, when we know better, we do better, right? And I love seeing the growth that's happening here. So coming from a more disability justice perspective, there is a long history of the term "nothing about us without us," right? Which comes from Black disabled women organizing. And I'm wondering, historically, a lot of the way disability has been portrayed in stories and media is what we call inspiration porn, right? Like, oh no, this disabled person is working so hard. Like, what's your excuse? She's running on carbon fiber legs. Like, you have no excuse. This kid is doing it. So I'm wondering where you could see the direction going, where you can bring that piece of the nothing about us without us, that like really centering disabled athletes as not necessarily helping others, but being disabled themselves and their stories. I'm thinking things like Murder Ball was this beautiful counter-narrative movie about wheelchair rugby. And I would just love to kind of get your idea of where you're going with that, as well as, you know, my sport was roller derby, as I'm sure most of you can imagine by looking at me. You know, how do you bring in those non-traditional spaces, whether they are club sports, campus sports, community sports, to really, you know, get that kind of diversity of experience?
Thank you. That's an amazing question. I remember roller derby, loved it. Collaboration. And so for me, it's always been important that I align with the university because it's the university that has a longstanding image in the community, hundreds of years. Athletes represent the school. And so these stories that I'm intentional about telling it's to show how the university is bringing resources. I think everyone knows we can all get better, right? But sometimes it's like, well, what could be that bridge, right, that could make this, you know, happen? And so Eric touched on it. It starts with the NILO. You know, I've done things where athletes are getting in the wheelchair and seeing that we're all the same. I think experiencing it changes the perspective. And then that's the story that you can now build upon. But it's the relationship. You can't start to bridge this gap for a basketball player to see that someone in a wheelchair is a basketball player and we all do the same type of grind, right? We all are athletes. And so I think that would be the goal, is how do we collaborate, create some of these opportunities, capture that, but do it again and again, because that'll build this relationship to where one quarterback or the running back 2 years ago, Blake, he gave away, I think, $2 million to Make-A-Wish. Those things need to be amplified because even someone in the who plays softball or volleyball, it's not just football or basketball. There's 900 plus athletes here who have stories that relate and would willingly want to get involved. I think it's just the collaboration. That's step one.
Could I add one piece to that? I think part of that is to tell deep stories. So for me, what I've learned as someone who's perceived, and the way that I'm perceived working in adaptive sports, is that you don't know what people's ability are when you look at them. I have people on our team who people look at them and assume they're able-bodied and they're not. And so I think that's when you tell complete and total and deep stories, intricate detail, then you can understand that there are some people on our team who maybe have advantages that you don't realize. So there are people who, for example, play wheelchair basketball, but they're like, I hate to say neuro-basic, not to be offensive, but yeah, you know what I mean? And so where I have some challenges, sorry, Daniel, where I may have some challenges, that person, because they sit or because they move there's a certain way, you may not understand that they have some other advantages. And so I think that it is really good to make sure that you are in the room, because a lot of times people are seen as an inspiration. I hear my athletes say, I am not an inspiration. And I would say, yep, and you are. Because I aspire, I want my kids to look up and they want to be wheelchair basketball players when they grow up because they've been coming to practice all the time. And so I think there's an element of innocence when people are really looking into it, but you find out who people really are and where they come from and their why, then you can be an inspiration for the right reasons. But absolutely having those people involved, like he said, in collaboration, and not just like, oh, we want to do this heartfelt, touching things. You never know. There are people who are nice, people who are not, people who are rude, people who are polite, and we know ourselves in the room, you know, and everybody you meet is nice. When you meet one person, you haven't met everyone. And so it is important that you collaborate, but the more that you tell, and I think, Greg, you do a great job of telling complete, deep stories and talking about the origin of people. I think when you do that way, then people can really understand why I should look into this person or why this person is doing something that makes me think deeply.
Okay, let's thank them again.